Andrew Urquhart with you on the program today. I know the current government coalition very concerned about educational outcomes. And, of course, one way of measuring that is can kids spell and read and add up by the time they leave high school? I mean, that's a reasonably low bar. Another way of doing that would be to look at unemployment figures for young people, particularly for school leavers, and certainly some disturbing trends there. Tim Wilson joining us from the Maxim Institute. Tim, kia ora, good morning.
Morena, Andrew. Yeah, good to be with you.
There are some disturbing trends here, although I suppose there's... you can hear the excuses already. Oh, yes, but it takes time to turn the ship around. We haven't been able to implement these life-changing policies. In the meantime, though, we seem to have a lost generation of young people who are underachieving, not in education, not in employment, and have lost their way.
Yeah, exactly. And look, there's a few statistics floating around, and we'll get to them. I think the first one, you're absolutely right to say, okay, what's a great way to measure our education system? Well, let's look at youth unemployment. At the end of last year, it hit 13.5%.
Wow!
And you'll think, okay, that's a pretty substantial figure. You look around the rest of the globe, and let's pick another country. Okay, Germany, for example, it's half that.
Wow.
In Germany. Now we're going to get into why that's the case, but also, as you were saying, what they call the NEETs, neither not in employment, education, or training, and that's very high as well. And what I think we're seeing is a lot of young people sort of coming out of school, not knowing where they're going, not aware of pathways into. And we're going to focus here on trades, because schooling is actually quite university orientated. So you think, okay, well, what percentage of students actually go to university? It's 30%. So where's the orientation for the rest of those students? That's 70% who want to go elsewhere. And I'm probably going to batter you around the head with stats, but stats say that if kids don't get onto a pathway with some momentum pretty quickly after leaving school, they drift for a long, long time.
Yeah, difficult to get back onto that pathway. And hey, even having a university education is certainly not a guarantee that there'll be an employment pathway at the end of that. But for that 70%, what do they do after high school? I mean, there's a lot of fortnight that needs playing, I know that, but in terms of a career, not many aspirational goals, it seems.
Yeah, and I think career advisors have actually pointed out that many students actually aren't aware that they can step into an apprenticeship straight out of school, and you're immediately avoiding student debt because you actually get paid to be an apprentice, and you're actually earning earlier, and often these students can end up in a stronger financial position than those people who've gone to university, as you say, with an uncertain future, accumulated a bunch of student debt, and then have to find a job. And we're also in a situation too, so that's the student part of it. There's a skills shortage in our country that's absolutely growing. Like 90% of businesses, according to EMA skills shortage survey, they struggle to fill vacancies, particularly in 71% of those for skilled vacancies. The construction industry is screaming out for jobs. It's a real situation where we've got our economy in some senses mismatched with our education system, and we need to look elsewhere to think, okay, what are we doing wrong? How can we do this better? And also serve those young people. It's about the next generation.
Certainly, and just looking at those two facts together, high levels of youth unemployment, high levels of skill shortages within our economy, something's gone wrong that we don't have more overlap in that area. And again, the economy changes faster than the education system. You know, who knows what the needs of the future will be? But I don't want that to be an excuse because, as you say, some countries are doing better at this than we are.
Yeah, and let's get back to Germany, which has a youth unemployment rate that's half of ours as a percentage. And what they do is they mix theoretical and practical, so classroom learning and hands-on apprenticeships. So kids are actually able to see, number one, the fact that I'm not necessarily academic is not a disadvantage. I can go somewhere. So we see an integration between the requirements of the workplace and what's being trained in the schools, and I think that's something that we could learn from. I think, it's the pathways from school to work, and those pathways start within the schools. So there's actually a recent paper by, so for example, let's take something like university entrance, which is what everyone, that's the measurement, right? That's the ruler. Recently, the New Zealand Initiative released a paper saying, hey, why don't we have the same level qualification for trades? So you get something that has a similar mana, similar status, and aspirational quality as for trades. Now, I think that also, and this is something we don't really talk about, is the status that comes from having a job. And I don't think that we actually, something that makes New Zealanders a bit uncomfortable. It's like, we don't want to talk about status, but a lot of who we are is expressed through our work.
Or, call it another, if you're uncomfortable with the word status, actually a sense of purpose, a sense of healthy self-esteem, a sense of belonging and contributing. This is important things that a generation is missing out on, perhaps.
Yeah, and I think it's particularly important, during those teenage years when you're trying to figure out your own identity. Well, some of us are still trying to figure it out, and it's a work in progress. I make no comment, Andrew. I'm talking about myself, but it's I think it's important, and the fact that we need to look at understand that trades are not just honourable. It's a sensible decision. Like, quick question: do you know how much it costs to hire a plumber in Auckland?
I try not to think about it, particularly when something's going wrong with my plumbing. But hourly rate's probably a bit higher than mine. Let's just say that.
$110 an hour plus vehicle charge, et cetera, et cetera. So, and you start to add that up, and you're looking at some really, really good money. But it's not just the ability to earn money where you get that sense of, I think, a sense of purpose. It's also the fact that you're able to do something that is useful. I think it's a human question. What was I made for? Where do I get my meaning from? And we get a lot of it from what we put into the work we do, and the way that we're able to help others improve situations. And let me tell you, I haven't met a plumber that hasn't improved my situation.
Exactly, and his own through the bill that you had to pay. Exactly.
When the bill arrives.
I mean, these are good ideas, but hey, we're not going to turn our education system to match Germany's overnight. And honestly, even with some of the tweaking around why don't we teach our children to read and add up, there seems to be pushback from the education sector, which says, no, this is the way that we do things. This is quite a radical proposal. I'm not saying it's not a good one, but what are the chances that that any government's going to have the political will to run with it?
Look, I think we go back to the economic argument, which is that if we've got a skills shortage in the country, then that argument suddenly becomes, it's not an argument merely about education, as important as that is, and it is absolutely important, but particularly in this time of tariffs and growing economic and geopolitical uncertainty, the notion that we're able to improve our economic standing, our productivity, well, that's something I think that would get people going, okay, this is important. It seems that we're actually, Andrew, in an era. It's not actually an era of change. It's a change of era. So we need to be well poised to be able to do that.
And even bring into that the social cost of what happens to a generation that don't have purpose or meaning in their life. What does that look like in terms of social outcomes, and how expensive is that at the end of the day?
Absolutely. And how do you get your formation? This is something actually that Maxim has raised with our AI and work research, is that is that if people don't find their formation from work, how are they going to get it? And as you say, lounging around playing Fortnite and ordering $5 Dominoes is not. I don't think that's a business model that will get us to where we need to be.
Yeah, perhaps for the school holidays, but it's not a lifestyle choice. Tim, thank you so much for the work that you do at Maxim. Some interesting questions, and we're good to be asking those big picture questions with a long timeline, which get us beyond these sort of short political cycles and saying, what sort of country do we want to build? Appreciate what you do. Now, maxim.org.nz for more information on this. I understand Samara Winslade was doing the research behind this article that's going to be posted later in the week.
That's right. Samara was one of our young leaders. She came through our program earlier this year and end of last year, beginning of this year, and did a great job with this piece. And I recommend it to anyone that cares about, well, anyone that's got teenagers and anyone that cares about getting through this tariff brouhaha.
Yeah, exactly. Maxim.org.nz for more information. Tim, thanks for what you do. Thanks for joining us.
Bless you, Andrew. Thank you.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.